You can see here, this corn crop is a lot darker green where the pivot track is. Now, there's a little bit less mulch cover there, so you might be thinking, well, it's a little warmer there. Maybe that's what's doing it. Well, that could account for the taller corn plants, but not so much the color difference. You can see the color difference looking down the row here. And you can also see some color differences over here in these streaks. These are combine streaks where he harvested the soybeans going back and forth this direction, and the straw and chaff didn't quite get spread the full width behind the head. So you've got these streaks over here that if you go and look carefully, there's less soybean residue there. You might be thinking, well, you know, soybeans, we don't really think of those as tying up nitrogen and other nutrients. They should be releasing. Don't soybeans put nitrogen in the ground? So, yes, that's true after a while. The problem is fresh soybean residue starts out with a carbon to nitrogen ratio of 40:1. It doesn't, residue doesn't start releasing nutrients until it gets down to 20:1 carbon to nitrogen. So this is in western Nebraska. Soybeans didn't degrade much over the winter, and there's two ways for that carbon to nitrogen ratio of the stubble to get closer to 20:1. Either it takes up nitrogen from the soil, or you spray nitrogen onto it, or the fungi and other microbes are busy degrading that stubble and blowing off carbon dioxide gas to get rid of some of the carbon and narrow that C/N ratio. Well, in this case, we're probably still tying up some nitrogen from the soybean residue over here, and we're at least not tying it up here and getting the full benefit of what was applied out here thus far. In any case, we've got these color differences. I'm certain from tissue tests and so forth that it's nitrogen deficiency, possibly with some sulfur deficiency mixed in. So this farmer is just not getting enough applied early on, and I can guarantee you that this is causing yield loss. These plants, corn does not add back yield at this growth stage. It's that ear size shrinks and you never get to add any back. So absolutely, with a very determinate crop like corn, we've got to make sure it never has a bad day. It's never short on nutrients. Another thing going on here is your root mass has shrunk with this corn, and it's never going to recover. We know from a lot of experiments that any crop that is short of nutrients in the profile, the root mass is smaller, and that impacts drought tolerance, and that also impacts the amount of root biomass that can go into soil organic matter, and much more importantly, it affects the amount of root exudate. That's a function of surface area of the roots, and it affects the number of mycorrhizae out there. Again, partly a function of total root mass. So we're impairing soil organic matter buildup as well as yield by not having enough nitrogen, sulfur, and other nutrients out there early. And while corn and milo and cotton might be a little bit more forgiving in terms of they can add some yield back later, there's still a point where you've shrunk that root mass permanently. It never recovers if you have serious nutrient shortages at any point. And some of these nutrient shortages can be not all that conspicuous. You really need a fertilizer spill or something where you can get a comparison.